Good morning, friends. How are you? I have missed you guys so much. I feel like it has been forever since we have done a Facebook Live, and really it has not been that long, but it certainly feels like I have been away for a while. So I'm a little rusty. I apologize. Thank you for your patience. How are you guys? So much has happened since the last time we were all together here. So first and foremost, can we just talk about the fact that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl? Hello. Yes, go Chiefs. Oh my gosh. Best thing ever. Patrick Mahomes scored the first touchdown in the Super Bowl, which was amazing. And I actually got to see the whole first half while at the airport. I was afraid that I wasn't going to get to see any of it, but I think kind of the stars aligned and I was able to see the whole first half. I boarded the plane during halftime, and by the time I got off of the plane, we had won, and it was nothing but a celebration. It was so awesome. So, hey, Joan. Oh, Joan, I miss you so much. I cannot wait to see you again. Joan, I feel like it's been forever since we've seen each other. It really hasn't been that long, you guys, but it definitely feels like it because so much has happened between the last time that we were together and now. So a lot of you guys know that we went off on our Tucson adventure for all of the wonderful gem shows and so many beads, so many wonderful things that happen in Tucson. And we spent an entire day at Tohono Chul, and we taught 3 classes and had such a wonderful time, you guys. It was so much fun. It is definitely an experience that I will carry with me forever. Tucson is one of those places. It's just magical no matter what you're there for. There's just something in the air. In Arizona in general, really, but Tucson in particular is just it's a really special place, and it's such a great place for all of us to get together, you know, in the industry and see each other. I got to see friends that I have not seen in a very long time, and a lot of you guys. I got to spend the day with a lot of you guys, so it was really, really wonderful. It was a great experience, and we brought beads back with us, right? Can't come back from something like that without some amazing Jesse James beads. So we're going to feature some of those in today's project. We're going to make some earrings, and the beads that we're actually using in today's project are some of the beads that we used in one of the classes that I taught while we were in Tucson. So pretty exciting to get to share those with you guys. And just a little extra for you guys. So tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and we've been celebrating Valentine's Day for days at Jesse James Beads. But right now, something extra special if you want to treat yourself to a little something for Valentine's Day, 20% off of all Beadalon. And it is a $29 minimum cart. That lasts until midnight tonight. So take advantage of that, right? If you've got your eye on a couple of Beadalon products while you are putting some of these wonderful beads that we brought back from Tucson, then add some Beadalon stuff to your cart. That tying station, add that to your cart because 20% off is a pretty fantastic deal, and you definitely will not regret getting that in the mail. I can promise you. It's one of my favorite tools. Oh my gosh. I feel like I have so many things to say, but don't really know where to begin. And I do want to get to the project because I don't want to keep you guys waiting. I just saw somebody said they've been having withdrawal because there hasn't been a project in a while. So, oh, there's Jane and Laurie and Deborah. You guys, it is so good. It is so good to see you guys. I had a wonderful time, but I definitely missed coming and being with you guys. It is, like I've always said, it's the highlight of my week. So I'm so happy to be back and to be able to share. Speaking of sharing, if you guys have not checked out the Jesse James Beads blog, go read the blog because, let me pull it up here real quick. There are a couple of things that are on the blog if you don't check the blog on a regular basis. So first and foremost, the tutorial that we do today will be posted on the blog. And there is also a materials list. I always try to put together a list, and I've just recently been giving you measurements as well. You guys know I'm like terrible with measurements. Look, you guys, I actually have a 12-inch ruler. Shocking, right? Because my regular ruler has not made it back from Tucson yet. It will be here soon. But there's a list of all the supplies that you're going to need to create today's project. So after you watch today, if you want to go back and recreate, then you can check the blog and there will be a comprehensive list of all of the things that you need to create the project, which is really super handy. But something else that is also there is our recap of Tucson. So I just recently put together my kind of abbreviated version of events for my adventure in Tucson, and it is over on the Jesse James Beads blog if you want to check that out and kind of read and see some of the pictures that we took along the way. Just kind of get a shortened, condensed version of all of the things that happened, because I don't want to sit here and bore you guys with all of it. I will talk a little bit more about it tomorrow on Sara Ellis Designs, so don't forget to check me out tomorrow at 1 p.m. as well for another project, also using some of these fantastic Jesse James beads that we used while we were in Tucson. So lots of really great things. All right, so today's project, I'm going to show it to you ahead of time. Jane says, OMG, you left Elle behind. So I didn't actually, well, I guess I kind of did, because I flew back from Tucson before Sara flew back, and my suitcase was already over the weight limit. It always is. Like, I'm not a light packer. And then when you start adding in your tools and stuff, it gets really, really heavy. So I knew that on my way back, I was going to have a lot of extra things to ship back. So I included my tools. I don't know what I was thinking. I included my tools in my box of things to ship back home. So I'm home. My box of stuff is not quite here yet. So we're kind of improvising today. I'm missing my 11-inch weird ruler, and it's weird to have a 12-inch ruler now. Really strange. My bell making pliers, my artistic wire mandrel, all of those things have not made it home yet. So I'm hoping that they will be here very, very soon so that we can get back to like life as normal, because it feels really weird to not have those things with me. Yeah, so I guess I kind of did leave them behind because Sara shipped them before she left. Okay, so this is the project for today. We're creating a really cool pair of earrings, and I normally don't show these to you guys until the very end, but I figured I've got one already made, so I'll show it to you before we get started, and then you guys will kind of know what direction we're going. So we're creating this teardrop shape. We've done this several times. This is kind of a refresher, if you will. This is, you know, the teardrop shape we've made a bunch. We've actually done this technique in a couple of different situations. But yeah, so that's the project. Showing off those gorgeous beads. I cannot wait to show these to you guys. Tina says, with all those beautiful tools, you don't have duplicates. You know, there are some things I don't have duplicates of, but lesson learned. I might just have to grab myself an extra barrel making pliers and an extra mandrel. Because I have a feeling that this is not going to be the last time that I have to ship things ahead of time. Because, you know, you can't go to a place like Tucson without getting stuff, right? Okay, so let's get down to it, shall we? They weren't ready to leave Tucson. They were not ready to leave Tucson. My tools were having such a good time. They just did not want to come home. All right, I didn't either, you guys. It was so fun. Okay, so let's talk about the beads first and foremost. So normally, you guys know, I keep the packages together, and I don't normally you know, have everything out and loose, but today is an exception, just like with a lot of other things. I'm going to dump this on a bead mat so that these don't go rolling everywhere. This is the Desert Rose bead mix, and we used these for, what did we use these for? I've slept so many times since then. So we used these in one of the classes, and they're such a beautiful mix. I just wanted to kind of dump this out and show this to you guys before we get started, just so that you can see, because you can definitely grab these over on Jesse James Beads. So this mix has a lot of everything, but the color in particular is just absolutely stunning. It really, really reminds me of Tucson, and I think it probably forever will. When I see this color palette, it's always going to remind me of Tucson, but it's beautiful, not just because of the pinks and like the rose colors, but also, I don't know if you can tell, this copper color, this like antique copper is just amazing. And these little spacer beads, I love those too, right? But then there's also the pops of gold color in here as well. It's just really kind of a classy mix. You also have some of the silver, some of these little connectors that are super, super cute. So it's really a beautiful bead mix. There are actually a couple of beads that are missing from this just because I had to pull them to get together what I needed for the earring, but it was stuffed full. This little design elements was absolutely packed full of beads. So if you're interested in having these beads that we used while we were in Tucson, definitely go check these out over on Jesse James. And don't forget your 20% off on your Beadalon stuff. Okay, so these are the beads that we're going to be using. Let me move this out of the way and let's get started with our earring. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to create that teardrop shape. Let me bring one over here and show it to you. Oh, Tracy, thank you. Tracy says my nails look lovely. I really appreciate that. I'm always really self-conscious about my nails because it's hard to keep a manicure in this job, right? I'm really, really hard on them. So I'm trying to keep them looking good. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to create this teardrop shape first, and then we are going to do the little wire wraps here on the bottom, and then we will add our dangles and our tassel in the middle. So let's get started with that. You're going to need a piece of, the one thing about these nails is it's really hard to pick things up. So you're going to need a 5-inch piece of 18 gauge wire. You can use artistic wire for this, or you can use your German style wire for this. It is completely up to you. We're going to work harden it, so it's not going to make much of a difference one way or another. Okay, and normally you guys would see me use my artistic wire mandrel set for this on the 25 millimeter circle, but because it's not here, I'm just going to use a wooden dowel, which is going to work the exact same way. But just so you know, I prefer my artistic wire mandrel set. Just in case there's any question about that. All right, so you want to take your 5-inch piece of wire and you just want to lay that across the top of whatever you're going to use to create your round shape. And then you're just going to guide your wire around, right, to the other side. And try, if you can, to get it to create that teardrop shape. And one of your ends may be a little bit longer than the other. When you bring it around, you're just going to have to work with it just a little bit. You guys know, just be patient with it. Kind of pull one out and push the other one in to get that shape that you want. My shape is definitely not perfect here, so it's different to use a wooden dowel instead of your regular mandrel, but we're making it work. We still got that really good teardrop shape. I'm going to go ahead and put this on my block before I create any of the loops at the top, just to go ahead and work harden this a bit. Okay, so I'm just using my steel block and my nylon hammer. Joan says she has that dowel set and she needs to mark the sizes. I do. I'm kind of a crazy person about marking the sizes. If you guys can see, mine's marked on the bottom. I have to mark all of them. After a while, I get to the point where I can just guess what it is, and I'm usually right, but in the beginning, it takes me a while. All right. So now we're going to open this up just a little bit. So that 25 millimeter is a little on the small side. But I think once we get everything together, that it'll come into the shape that we want. And you can see mine's a little bit longer on one side than the other, but it's just by a tiny little bit, so I'm not that worried about it. I'm gonna put my block to the side for a minute. We may use it again here before we move forward. Okay, so I actually do have a duplicate of my small bell making pliers. It's the large ones I don't have a duplicate of, which is lucky for us because the small ones are what we're using for today's project. Okay, so what you want to do to create your teardrop shape, to connect it, we're going to take one of the sides of the wire, okay, either one, it makes no difference. You're going to grab that with your small bell making pliers. We're using the largest mandrel here, and we're going to roll the side out, right, to create a loop. And actually, I think let's use this smaller. Let me have, that loop was just a little bit bigger than what I wanted. So let's go back and use the smaller portion of the tool to roll down. That loop was just a little bit big. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay. All right, so we've got one loop going this direction, right, out towards the side. The loop that we want to create here, we want this one to roll backwards. Okay, so the two loops are actually going to be going in two opposite directions. So I'm grabbing the tip of that wire and I'm just going to roll back this direction. So now when you look at it from the front, it's going to look kind of funny, but that's what we want. Okay, we've got that funny shape. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in with our chain nose pliers. We're going to open this loop up, and then we are going to hook this one onto this one. And it's not a hard motion, really. You just have to be careful to not smash out the teardrop shape that you've got here, okay? So just hook that on to the other one. You can see where we've created that shape. Now I want to close this loop back. Okay. Just being really gentle with it. Okay. I'm going to tilt this loop at the top just a little bit. It's wasn't my best loop, but a little rusty. That's all right. Okay, so now I want to put this back on the block. Now that I really have that teardrop shape that I want, I'm going to hang the loops off of the edge here because it won't lay flat otherwise. And we're going to work hard on this just a little bit more, just because we are really going to be holding on to this and using our fingers to warm up the metal as we're doing the wire wrapping. And sometimes it has a tendency to come out of shape. Always be sure to do both sides. Okay, and then check it. And of course, if you're using your artistic wire instead of your German style wire, you definitely want to work hard on it a little bit more than you would with the German style wire. And we are ready to move on to the wire wrapping. Now, if it does happen to come out of the shape as we're doing the wire wrapping, that's okay. We can always go back in and fix it, okay? So don't worry if you do heat it up with your fingers and it does get a little wonky on you. We can always go back and fix it. Okay, so what we want now is we want to create our little loops here on the bottom so that we can hang our Jesse James beads, right, from all of the little loops. So we are going to wire wrap a piece of 22 gauge wire. I'm going to cut about we're going to cut about a 12-inch piece to do this. And we'll have a little bit extra. 12 inches is a little generous, but so we're going to do the wire wrapping, and we're going to use our small bell making pliers here to create these little loops where we're going to hang our Jesse James beads. Okay, so here is our teardrop shape, and we are going to come in with our 22 gauge wire. If you are more comfortable using 24 gauge wire for this, then please feel free to do that. It is completely up to you. It's whatever you are the most comfortable with. Just remember that the smaller the gauge, or the smaller the gauge of the wire that you use, it's going to be a little bit more flexible, so you always have the chance to kind of knock it out of shape. You just want to be careful. We're going to do 7 loops, but the first thing we need to do is just anchor this wire. So I'm taking the tail end of the wire coming through the center here, and I'm going to use my tail to wrap around a couple of times. And the first few wraps are not going to be super pretty. That's okay. We can squeeze those together with our chain nose pliers. And we're going to do 7 loops. I don't know if I said that or not, but we're going to do 7 loops here. All right, so just kind of anchoring that wire on, right? And you can see there's some spaces in between there. Those are not perfect, but I am going to come in with my chain nose pliers and squeeze those together. And I'm going to cut this little tail on the back. Okay. All right, and now this wrap that's coming out this direction, it's really far over. I do want to squeeze it into as much as I can. Okay. All right, so now you're gonna notice that it will move on the wire for you a little bit. That's okay. You don't want it to be super tight until we get all of the loops that we've created in the place where we want them. We want them to be able to be adjusted just a little bit, just in case some of them are off center. We want that number 4 loop to definitely be down here on the very, very center bottom here. Okay. All right. So to create our loops, we're going to use our small bell making pliers. We're going to use the small mandrel. Just want to double check. Yep, we're using the smallest mandrel on the bell making pliers to create the loop. And you want to always follow the path of the wire. I know I've said this before, but it definitely bears repeating. So the wire is coming from the back up through the loop, coming this direction. So it's coming over the top of the component, right? So as we create that loop, we want to continue to follow the path of the wire. So the next wrap around is going to go to the back up to the front. So in other words, don't make your next wrap go over the top, okay? You want it to just continue the natural path. You'll see as we're going. And I'm working left to right. You can work right to left. It's whatever is up to you. Okay, so we're just going to grab the component. Let me move you guys just a tiny, tiny bit so that we can get kind of a better up and down shot on this, because it kind of helps to see it from the top looking down. Okay, so we're going to grab the component between the barrel of the pliers, right? And the small barrel is the one that's on the outside. That's the one that we're going to use to create our loop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to guide the wire around the side, right? Around the side of that mandrel. Okay, and you can see I'm going to the back. Okay, that's the natural path of the wire. So now what I want, and I'm taking it off of the tool just because I've got a long, long piece of wire here. Now I'm going to put it back in. Now you want to hold carefully and do your wire wraps, and you want 3 or 4 wraps between each one of your little loops that you create, okay? And again, if they're not lined up nice and neat, that's okay. We can adjust them. We can always come in with our pliers and make them look the way we want them to look. Okay, so there's 4 wraps. I'm going to take it off of the tool, and now you can see the loop that we created. Okay, the space in between there is a little big, so I'm going to push it together just a little bit. Okay, so you can open that up or squeeze it together depending on what size you want the loop to be. Okay, all right, now we're just going to go to the next, right next to the wraps that we just created. That's where you want to place the tool. So it's right up against those wraps. Okay, guiding the wire around the side of the mandrel of the tool, going to the back of the component and up through the middle. Okay, and then 3 or 4 wraps, just however much space you want in between there. Okay. And then 1 more. Okay, so bringing it to the front. Now I'm going to take it off of the tool. I'm just going to look at it, and you can see there's a space there. I don't really like that, so I'm just going to squeeze it together with my pliers. Okay, checking the spacing, making sure that the 2 loops are pretty much the same size. And we are just going to continue on. Okay, grabbing the component right next to the wraps that we just made, guiding around the barrel of the pliers up through the center. And then wrapping about 3 times, or 4. I think I've been doing 4, so do 3 complete wraps and then back up for a half wrap rather. That makes sense. Okay. All right. So now we're doing our number 4, and we want this one to be in the center. If it's not already, we can adjust everything. We're going to go ahead and do it, and then we will really take a look at it to see the placement. Okay. It's going to take me a while to get used to working with these fingernails. It's really kind of awkward to have something on your body that is not normally there, right? And wire wrapping with these fingernails it's definitely it definitely feels a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze those 2 together. Okay, and now I just want to look to see. That's pretty close to the center, but I am just going to kind of wiggle everything down just a little bit, okay? Just wiggling the sections, kind of warming up the wire and sliding it down. It's easier to slide down a smaller section than to do the whole thing and try to wiggle all 7. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you want to adjust the placement of your loops, do it as you're going. Don't wait till you get to the end. It's much, much harder to adjust all of those. All right, so we've got 3 more to go. Okay, to the back, up through the center, and we're going to go around. Okay. All right, moving right on along. Okay. All right, there's that one, and we've got 1 more loop to go, and then I'm going to kind of adjust them all with my fingers a little bit. Make sure that everything looks the way I want it to look before we add our Jesse James beads. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to bring that 4th wrap to the back because that's where I want to trim it off. All right, so I'm going to squeeze all of that together, right? And I'm going to come to the back, trim off the tail, and then just kind of look at it a little bit. If your loops are not placed exactly where you want them to be, or the spaces between them are too big, give them a little bit of an adjustment. It's fine, it's just wire. Right? And if you need to kind of reshape them, you can always put them back on the tool and kind of twist them so that they're more facing frontwards instead of sideways. I do like my loops to be, see how these are kind of facing at an angle, right? They're angled towards the back. Whereas these that I just put on the tool are more coming forward. That's what I want. So I'm going to put all of them back on the tool. Just give them a little bit of a twist. That's going to be enough to really change the direction of that loop. See how that makes them face forward a little bit more. It's up to you though. If you like them going to the side, you can do it that way. You can twist them however you want to shape them, right? All right, so now our component is ready to go. We are almost done, you guys. We're ready to add some of our beautiful Jesse James beads to this to make just a really, really beautiful pair of earrings. Okay, so for the beads, let me bring the one in that is already done just to kind of show you what we're going to be using. So we're using this really beautiful crystal bead for the center, right? This kind of faceted rondelle has this really beautiful colorway to it. I really can't even begin to explain what the color is here. It's like a peachy color, but it almost has like a purpley green shift to it. It's just really beautiful. And then these 2 guys on either side of that, because we're going to work from the middle out, are these beautiful pink beads, and they are already wrapped for us, which is a bonus. So all we have to do for these guys is add a jump ring, and then let's see, we're going to use the little rose beads. Those are going to go on the outside. I've already done one of those, and one of these beautiful little galaxy beads. I love these guys. They look like little gumdrops. Really, really beautiful. I've already done one of those. So we're going to wire wrap 3 of these. We're going to do our knotted head pin for these, and then we will put everything together using some 4mm jump rings. If you want to forego the jump rings and just wire wrap these directly onto your loops, you certainly can do that. I just feel like it's such a small space that we're working with here that for the sake of our tutorial, I'm going to use jump rings to attach them. Totally up to you though, okay? All right, so let's do some of the wire wrapping on our beads. We've got 3 here that we need to do. So I have cut 3 pieces of 22 gauge wire. They're about 3.5 to 4 inches each. And we're gonna create our knotted head pin. And thank goodness I have extra pairs of nylon jaw pliers, or I would be in really bad shape because I cannot live without doing my knotted head pins. Okay, so we're gonna take the very tip of our wire, our 22 gauge wire. We're going to grab that with the very, very tip of our round nose pliers, okay? Now, we're going to roll the wire around the tip of the pliers one complete time, okay? And then we're going to go a second time directly underneath the first one, all the way around, and you want to stop where you see where the wire has been cut, okay? Before you take it off of the tool, bend the wire out this direction. Okay, take it off of the pliers. You've got these two little coils here on the end. You want to take the tail end of your wire and you want to bend it back towards the coil and push it through. Okay, now you want to grab that tail end of that wire with your nylon jaw pliers right next to where those two wraps, those two loops are. Okay, then you want to grab that wire and pull it through, okay? And you want to pull tight. You can see my arm shaking a little bit. Susan says, what happened to your tools? My tools were having such a good time in Tucson that they stayed an extra couple of days and they just haven't made it home yet, but they will be here soon. All right, so there is our little rosette that we have created, and that is going to be the base of our head pin. We're going to thread on our beautiful rondelle bead, and then we're going to create a wrapped loop at the top, grabbing that wire with our chain nose pliers right as it is exiting the bead. We're going to bend the wire 90 degrees. Okay, now we're coming in with our round nose pliers, grabbing that wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers. Okay, going up and over. I'm going to roll the pliers this direction so that I can go ahead and have room to take that wire all the way over to the other side. Now I'm going to switch hands and do about 3 wire wraps. Okay, taking it off of the tool, and we are going to trim our tail. So there's one ready to go. I'm going to sit this to the side, and we've got 2 more to do, and like I said, the others are already ready, so there are definitely more of our Jesse James beads to do, but just to save a little bit of time. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again, grabbing that 22 gauge wire right at the tip, rolling it around the tip of the round nose pliers once, rolling it around a second time, stopping right where you see where the wire is cut, bending out this direction. Okay, take it off of the tool and take the tail end of the wire, if I could hold it still, and go back through the 2 loops. Okay, you make this really funny little shape here. And we are going to come in with our nylon jaw pliers, grab that wire right next to the 2 loops, and then pull. Okay, and that's created our little knot. Now, one thing you're going to notice with the smaller bead here, because these are definitely a little bit smaller than that first rondelle that we used, is if you don't like that knot at the bottom, if you feel like that's too big for the bead that you are using, then you can go down a size in your wire. So if you wanted a smaller knot here, instead of using the 22 gauge wire, you could step down and use 24 gauge wire, and it will make your knot just a little bit smaller. It doesn't bother me a bit, but some people don't like for that knot to be so noticeable, if you will. So you do have options there, okay? Bend that wire over my chain nose pliers, coming in with the round nose, going up and over, and then on around. So you guys, speaking of our little knotted head pins and our wrapped loops, we taught at a Beads of Courage event while we were in Tucson, and we taught everybody at our tables how to make wrapped loops. It was so much fun, and we had so many ladies that it was their first wrapped loop ever. They were so excited. It was such a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you guys are not familiar with Beads of Courage, look them up. It is a wonderful organization to be a part of if you are into making jewelry. It was a wonderful event, and there is information about all of that on the blog over on jessijamesbeads.com. Check it out. All right, so we're going to do one more, and then we are going to attach everything with our jump rings, and we will move on to constructing our earring. Okay, so grabbing that wire right at the tip, round nose pliers. I'm going to go a little bit faster this time since you guys have already seen me do this twice. Roll it around and out this direction. Okay, so take the tail end of the wire, bring it back through. So Beads of Courage did, Karen says she loves Beads of Courage. I do too. They did events, several events while everybody was in Tucson, and the night that we were there, it was Designing with the Stars, and so Sara and I had a table, and right next to us was Patty Bullard. You guys know her from Wubbers. She and her daughter were there teaching. Deb Flores was there teaching, who is a wonderful person, by the way. Just really kind of fell in love with her. And Candy Cooper was there. And there was somebody else, but I cannot remember who it was. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. I know that I am. But then everybody was there, right? Katie Hacker was hosting. She was there. Juliana Avalar was there. I feel like I'm name dropping. I'm totally not. I really am just telling you guys who all was there. It was such a good event. We had such a wonderful time. And the people that were at our tables were, some of them were experienced jewelry makers. I had Sandra Lupo. I love Sandra. I had Sandra come, and she was in a group. I'm like, I can't teach Sandra Lupo anything. She already knows it all. It was so funny. But then we had people that absolutely complete beginners who'd never made a single piece of jewelry in their entire lives. It was so rewarding. It was really, really fun. All right, so now we have all of our beads ready to go, okay? And we are going to attach these with some 4mm jump rings. Let me grab those. And then we are going to attach a tassel to the center, okay? Let me grab some of these. All right, so we're just going to use some 4mm jump rings here. I cannot pick up with these silly fingernails. I'm going to use 2 pairs of pliers. Always open laterally. Do not ever pull those apart, right? This direction. You want to kind of walk those open. I'm going to start in the middle with our largest bead and attach that to our center loop and just close it back. Okay. And keep going. So the next, we're going to go down in size. So we're going down a little bit smaller. It's going to go right next to that center bead. Close that back. And then we're going to use one of the galaxy beads. And then one of our little rose beads. All right, so one whole side is done. And now we're just going to repeat that same pattern over here on the other side. Okay. All right. So how is the weather where everyone is? I only ask because it has been raining here nonstop for what feels like a month. It hasn't really been a month, but it feels like it. Our schools have been called off. I think we've been out a total of 4 days. Some of it was last week and some of it was this week. And then we were on an hour delay today because we are literally underwater here. There's so much rain and so much flooding. All right, so there is the beads, all of our Jesse James beads attached to the bottom of our component. Now, at this point, if you wanted to add your ear wire and call it done, you absolutely could, but I can't because I'm extra and you guys are extra and we all love a little extra something. So we're going to add one of our tassels here to the center of our earring before we add our ear wire. And Let me bring in the one that is finished so that you guys can kind of get an idea of how this is attached, okay? So I'm using two 6mm jump rings. One of them is looping through, one of them is looping through the tassel itself, and then the other one is looping through the loop at the top, but then kind of going around the whole little area right through here, okay? So that might be a little bit hard to see as we're putting it together, but let's see, I'll do that one first, just so that you can see it. Grab the wrong jump rings here for this. All right, so we're just gonna need two jump rings, and go ahead and attach this first one, just so that you can kind of get an idea of where it's going. So what I want, and you might need to open this one up just a little bit wider, because you're gonna have to clear a lot here. So we're going to go, let's see, might help to go this direction. We're going down through the loop at the top, right? And then looping through the loop that's on the back. And it might help you, it might help you to see it from the side. So can you kind of see, I know it's really difficult to really kind of see it until you're actually doing it, but you're looping through in two places. That's just going to kind of help it hang more in the center instead of off to one side. And luckily there's enough room to do that with a 6mm jump ring. You definitely would not be able to loop through everything with a 4mm jump ring, okay? So just so you can see where that's going. So now I have this space here, and I'm able to attach another jump ring here that will be attached to our tassel. So I will go ahead and attach that. Just really kind of wanted everything to hang in the center, and because this is a tassel and it really doesn't matter which direction it hangs because it's the same on all sides, then we don't necessarily have to worry about which direction, right, everything is going. So that helps. So attach that back, and now you've got your tassel and it's going to hang in the center, which is really cool. And you really, this whole business here, it really just kind of disappears into the design once you have it on. Nobody notices that there is, you know, an extra jump ring going on here, okay? All right, so last that we need to do, the very last thing is to add our ear wire, and our earring is complete. You can add any kind of ear wire that you want to this. I was gonna make an ear wire for you guys, but you guessed it, my stepped bell making pliers are also in my box of tools. I feel so lost, you guys. I can't wait to get my tools back in my hands, but they were having such a good time, right? All right, so there is our earring. We have our set, really beautiful pair of earrings showing off the Desert Rose design elements from Jesse James Beads. I'm gonna flip you around. I'm gonna put one of these on so that you guys can see them because they are really, really stunning on. All right. Whoa, well, it would help if I turned you around. You are just looking at a light. Hi, how are you? So when you start the wire wrap, this is a question Marianne wants to know. Let me scroll back up. She wants to know, how do you know how far down the teardrop to start wrapping? Well, to be completely honest with you, it's really kind of a guessing game, right? The first thing I like to do is, let me put one on while we're chatting here. The first thing I like to do is figure out how many of the loops, right? If I want that center loop, look how pretty those are. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. This color, this kind of rose color, yeah, I'm gonna wear these today. So, like I was saying, the first thing you want to do is you want to figure out how many loops that you want, right? So we have 7 loops here, and I picked 7 so that I definitely had one that was in the center. If you don't care if you've got a bead in the center and you pick an even number and you've got, you know, say 8, then the next thing is to find either the center point between 4 and 5 in an even number, or that center loop. Then you just kind of want to eyeball it. You figure, okay, this loop here in the center takes up about, let's grab our crazy new ruler. So the loop size itself is about 1/4 of an inch. So it takes about 1/4 of an inch to create the loop. And then when you add in the addition of the wire wraps, you are looking at probably closer to 1/2 inch. So you really can just kind of guess that you're going to need to give yourself about 1/2 inch in between. So you start in the middle, and if you've got 3 that need to come up this way, then you need to just kind of, you can measure it with your ruler, measure the space between here and here, and give yourself enough space, or you can just kind of eyeball it. And the first 2 loops, because they're nice and they're not super tight, they're still loose, you can kind of shift those around. So it may be easier to, instead of doing the measurement on it, it may be easier just to kind of trial and error, like put that first loop on there and then just kind of eyeball it and move it around. When it comes to the math part of it and doing the measurements, I'm really bad at that. So I always try to start with how many loops and then just kind of go from there, right? Give yourself enough space for everything. I don't know that I necessarily gave you the best answer, but I hope that I kind of steered you in the right direction. I avoid measuring at all costs. You guys know my ruler has 11 inches on it. I avoid measuring as much as possible and really just kind of, you know, trial and error and play with it a little bit. So there you go. So, wow, what a fun way to come back to make a really fun pair of earrings with a beautiful pair, or not a beautiful pair, but a beautiful set of Jesse James beads. These are Desert Rose, and it is a Design Elements. Yeah, just had to double check. Design Elements. You guys can get these over on Jesse James Beads. Also, the list is on the blog for all of the supplies that you need to create this design, as well as my Tucson experience, like my simplified kind of recap of Tucson. If you are interested in checking out some of the things that we did while we were in Tucson, don't forget your 20% off of your Beadalon items. That is until midnight tonight, Pacific Standard Time. So take advantage of that as well. If you're going to grab some of these beautiful Tucson beads, stick a couple of tools in there as well, right? Take advantage of that. 20% off Beadalon is a darn good deal. Just saying. All right, thank you guys. It is so good to be back. I'm so happy to be back with you guys. Don't forget that you can catch me tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Sara Ellis Designs. We're going to make another beautiful design using some more of our Tucson beads from Jesse James Beads. And next week I will also be on Silver Silk as well. We skipped this week because I'm still really far behind with everything. I'm still trying to play catch up, and I will get there, but wanted to start somewhere, so I started with you guys. All right, have a great rest of the day. You guys have a wonderful Valentine's Day tomorrow if I do not see you on Sara Ellis Designs, and have a fantastic weekend. And I will see you guys here, same time, same place next week. That's it. Have a great week, you guys. Bye.